Good morning, everyone. Let's start. We have still people joining this webinar, and I would like to welcome everyone who has joined and who will be joining to the webinar about strategies for engaging tech buyers. And today, myself, Andrejs Juščenko, and Rolands Ozoliņš will be sharing insights about key strategies for the B2B companies to engage this quite a challenging audience like tech buyers. And in particular, we will be looking to four main topics. First of all, we will look at how has B2B buyer behavior changed and how the purchasing decision process has evolved in last few years. Secondly, we will talk about how to build the audience of followers early enough and engage them in the quality manner. Then we will go to the topic about how to use and reuse the marketing content. So some best practices of building the marketing content, what type of the content actually for the tech audience might be the most relevant, and how to make it most efficient both in terms of production and in terms of the distribution. And last but not least, we will take time talking about how to accelerate your time to market to generate business and pipeline among those tech buyers. And those who already knows us probably don't need this introduction, but otherwise, I would like to introduce Rolands Ozoliņš, who is my business partner, and we both are co-founders of IBD Consulting, the company who is specializing on working with the technology companies and helping them expanding to international markets and building the pipeline, and most importantly, establishing a system of lead generation and pipeline generation through the digital channels. And myself, I'm Andrejs, coming from the technology industry, working there for more than 20 years. As Rolands, and we both met actually working for such a great company as the Microsoft, where Rolands was managing particularly in the enterprise business, the distributors business, and actually has really very extensive experience in business development across all the different models and channels. Myself, I was mainly responsible for the product marketing, for the business development, and I was introducing such a great product as Office 365 to the market back more than 10 years ago. And actually, it was quite an interesting experience back that times. And now we are running, as I already mentioned, the IBD Consulting for more than 6 years, and we mainly work with the technology companies all across Europe. And today we just collected some of the insights, what we would like to share with you during this webinar. Also, I would like to ask you to give us a bit of sense who you are, what function you particularly representing, and for that I would like to ask you to take a short poll. Let me just put it on the screen, and if you can just take a moment and vote for one of the options so that we know which function you are mainly representing, so that we also can adjust a little bit our story. So otherwise, I think we can start, Roland, and I pass it over to you.
Absolutely. Warm welcome, everyone, and let's get to discussing. And let's first revise the topic of how purchase decisions in B2B about technologies generally are made, right? And if we look at how purchases are made, or what the buyers, what the sellers are doing, then certainly over let's say last maybe even 2 decades, there have been quite significant change, which has been driven by 2 things. First of all, internet availability and information availability, and second thing is change of buyers' behavior. And basically, we live today in the world where buyers are taking responsibility for purchase process. So they are looking for information, they are talking with their peers, they are going to visit online forums, online review sites, reading blogs, attending webinars, perhaps such as this one, and so on. So they are in control of their own purchase journey, right? And they only are ready to talk with salespeople at the very last minute when they already have, let's say, short list of three possible vendors, and only at that moment they are ready to talk, if even at that moment, right? So this means we have to help them and prepare them to go through this buying journey. Now, if we look more specifically at the company level, we know that serious decisions are not made by a single person. So basically, there's a group present who are trying to figure out about several alternatives, about how to solve the problem, and so on. And there's also certain group dynamics, right? People are discussing, they have their own fields of expertise, their own opinions, and so on. So it's a bit political thing. And even if you, as a vendor or as a seller, are facing just one or two persons as direct buyers from the company, behind the scenes, most likely there are other people, such as legal, such as financial, and also highly technical buyers as well, right? And if we go ahead and if we look at how buying happens today, or where goes the time of this group, then actually they are very desperate for marketing content, right? And actually data dating back like now 5 years from Gartner tells that actually most time of this buying group we looked at earlier is spent on research, right? And they spend time on research like 3 times more than they are spending with suppliers. And this means that suppliers, vendors, sellers have to really think about how they can help this group of people to find information, to be able to figure out your solution, to make a decision, right? Because for buying to happen, for decision to happen, this group has to reach some certainty of decision, right? And now if we look specifically at more technical buyers, engineers, how they are different or how they stand out, how they are different from, let's say, your typical business buyer, right? And it turns out that they are quite, I would say, quite extreme. Well, first of all, they are kind of averse to marketing. They don't really like to be marketed to. They don't like your propaganda, right? And even if they're searching for information, actually more than half of them say that, well, we will never click paid search ads, like never, right? From other hand, they are extremely diligent. They're happy to invest lots of time of research, right? And typically there's a saying about search marketing that, you know, if you are on the second page, you are as good as dead, right? If you are not on the top 5 or top 3 places on Google search, you are like dead. But that's not the case with engineers, because engineers will really take time, and surveys and research shows that they will go as far as checking 5 pages deep in search results. So that's quite unusual. Also, they're the ones who are using highly technical publications. They're listening to technical experts, pundits, influencers. So that's important to keep in mind. And actually, what is also interesting from research is that quite a lot of them listen to work-related podcasts, like over 70%, which is really high. And their expectations from sales is that, first of all, we don't want to hear from sales like ever, except when they have hit a barrier, right? And they want to validate their online research. They have some questions that they want to answer, and then if they don't have anyone else to turn to, they will turn to sales. But also they will expect highly qualified answer to their questions. Andrejs?
Yes, and now let's maybe think of this from a different perspective, right? As Roland explained, there is a process that most of buyers going through, and let's apply this process to the real life situations, right? And imagine that you meet somebody and you would like to maybe marry somebody, and there are certain steps in this journey what you need to take, right, from both sides. You cannot really just from the day first jump into the marriage. So you still need to take some steps before that. And here I would like to ask your kind of opinion, and maybe if you can, just by using chat option, share how you would structure this journey looking at the picture on the screen. So where do you believe we should start? What would be the next step? And how do we kind of progress through this journey? Let's take a moment and maybe have this funny exercise. So let's quickly take a look and see what you guys think of this. As I already mentioned, there is a process, right? And we definitely need to respect this process when we think of engaging any audience, not only technical, but of course with the technical audience, there are some other specifics, what just Roland shared, and we will share further. But nevertheless, if you think of this particular process, that typically it starts with a simple thing. So you engage with somebody by providing maybe some compliment and just building some kind of trust and relationships. And then you go into the deeper engagement, like in inviting for the dinner, to introduce yourself, to maybe, you know, get to know more the second person. You offer to have a dance, and then maybe you know, expand these relationships for, you know, spending time and particularly a night together, and then you basically offer the relationships. You offer the marriage and so on. And that same happens actually in the real life. It's not much different. And if you think of the buyer journey in the business world, we can divide it into three main stages. And the first stage, we call it awareness stage, where first of all, there should be a problem or opportunity recognized. So second stage is then when the opportunity or a problem is recognized, is that person have to or starts to look for the solution and starts to look around what options available for solving this particular challenge or particular opportunity. And only then it is time to compare very specific offers, solutions, vendors, and make a decision. It's very hard to expect somebody to make a decision of buying a solution if he or she has not recognized that there is a problem or there is an opportunity for his or her organization. The same, if there are no solutions evaluated, it will be very difficult to expect somebody really jumping into the first available and you know, making a deal. So respecting that means that you have to adjust your activities accordingly. And more importantly, both studies and our real experience shows that most of your market actually is in the phase of awareness or in the phase of, in best case scenario, an interest. And these are almost 19 to 95% of your market. And that means that only minority of your addressable market is in active purchasing process, right? Of course, we all would like to target and would like to engage those people, right? But again, the competition at this level is very high. And as Roland explained, the process today is following that those people most likely already have engaged with certain vendors and certain solutions because they made own a pre-study and they made own decision-making process before. And that means that for you to succeed and to really accelerate your business growth, you need to think and need to build the strategies which help you not only to capture existing demand, what already available on the market, but also thinking of how you create a demand and how you help those buyers who are in the early stages of this buyer journey to actually move forward. And that also correlates with the following slide, which actually shows about the readiness for the sales conversation. And it is obvious that those people who are in the very end of their purchasing or buyer decision process, they are much more open. They are really in active search for the vendor. They are really interested in learning about specific solutions, about pricings, offerings, and many other things what you potentially can provide to them. While all others, they need additional help, and they are not at the position to have a sales conversation. Therefore, approaching them with a direct sales conversation might be a big mistake.
All right, let's now take a step further and let's look at one awfully complicated chart. But actually, what it is selling, right? As Andrejs was explaining, you basically what you want to do, you want to get to sales conversation, and you can only get to sales conversation if your buyers have passed the awareness and interest stage and they are now considering solutions, right? But what happened over COVID and in the last years is that data shows that buyers are actually increasingly not willing to talk with salespeople and sales representatives. And particularly that relates to younger buyers, and particularly this has increased as a trend over the COVID. And this trend, of course, relates also to engineers. And later in our webinar, we will talk about how to deal with that, how to help your buyers with marketing content without need, perhaps, to talk with sales representative. Now, remember, earlier I said that engineers are reluctant to talk with sales. Now, let's take a look at what are the situations when engineers are actually willing to talk with sales, or they are interested. Right, and probably it will take a couple of minutes for slide to load, but I will start explaining anyhow. So when engineers are willing to talk with sales, well, first of all, and I think I mentioned earlier that if they have faced certain problem and they think that there is certain solution, but they want to validate that, right? So then they are happy to reach out to sales. Second thing is basically somewhat similar, that they have hit such complexity level which goes beyond their competence and knowledge, and then they are open to talk as well. Third, in the third place is pricing. Obviously, if technical buyer is, let's say, the lead buyer who leads the purchase, of course, I mean, if pricing is not for some reason available transparently or it is not clear, they want to clarify. And now if you look at the chart, all the rest reasons are very low in their priorities. So again, the takeaway from this slide is that if you are selling, and in particular, if you are selling to technical buyers, try to provide them with all information so that they can figure out themselves, because you cannot rely on them reaching out to your sales team and asking questions. There's just too big chance it will not happen. So try to help them in this regard as much as it is possible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very important to really adjust your both marketing and even sales strategy to more like educative type of approach rather than to direct sales towards this audience. But yeah, if you have different experience, please use also the chat window to share your thoughts if you agree or disagree, or maybe you have something really different observed. It would be really a good and beneficial for everyone participating. But now let's move to the next topic of today's webinar, and let's talk about how really we can build this audience, how we can build trust and engage with this audience, as Roland already started to explain.
Yeah, so let's start by answering the question: why should you really invest in building an audience, and does it matter? Is it important? And I would say very clearly, very strongly that yes, it is. And there are a number of reasons why you want to start building audience, and also why you want to start building audience early, even before your product is ready to hit the market. Well, first of all, you want to build the trust and build relationships, right? Even while you are developing a product. So at least you will have a number of, let's say, beta users who will be using your product, will be giving you feedback and so on. Second thing, remember this innovation adoption framework, right? If you are really developing really innovative product, cutting edge technologies, you need to identify innovators and early adopters, because only those people will be crazy enough to really commit to using your really innovative technology. I already mentioned about having beta users and having also early market feedback. And then what else? You also want to generate buzz, some buzz, some positive reception, and some organic demand. It will help you with selling your product when it's available. It will also build your build your own image. It will help to attract investors. It will help to attract a team and so on. Another important thing that this will help you reduce business risks, right? Because if you have a ready audience, and even if you have to pivot, even if you have to change something, then you can, you can build on an existing relationship, existing reputation. And the last and perhaps most important is that if you have built your audience early enough, you will significantly shorten your time to market. Because see, when you will have a product ready, you will have already some traction, you will have some demand, and you will be able to start monetizing your product once it hits the market without, again, lengthy months and years of investment in marketing.
And here maybe it's a good place to some of examples from our experience. And I remember when we had once a project and promote their very valuable piece of content in this market. And as a feedback, it turned back that salespeople then shared that it was very easy for them to engage with the target audience because most of them were noticing that there is a very valuable piece of content. They even read it. And for them, there was no big challenge to actually have or get into the contact and get into the conversation with those decision makers, because they already knew who is this company, they knew where they specialize, and most importantly, they also managed to build the trust because of this great piece of the content. Yeah, and now as we moving forward, we coming back to this buyer journey kind of slide again and again. And why it is important, I hope you understood that if you really apply this concept into your kind of approach, that can significantly help you increase efficiency of your marketing and sales activities. And for that, we already mentioned that there are two major strategies what you can basically apply here. First of all, and this is really a good approach, going after those who are already ready to buy. And this is about capturing the already existing demand on the market through different activities. Especially, it can be good by leveraging a Google search. Depends on what your product is, right? It's about even going more proactively with some outbound activities, even sending maybe or engaging with the buying personas through the LinkedIn or cold emails, telesales, and many others. So, but the thing is how to identify really that these people are at this stage, right? And we will talk a bit later about this. And the second strategy, it's about building demand and creating demand. And that is what partially Roland already explained, that it's about preparing your audience early enough, even before your actual product or offering is ready, and building the trust and building actually a need for your services or your products.
And here is one important remark I would like to make. Remember, when we initially discussed about the buyer's journey and how much the buyer takes responsibility of it, I mentioned that at the end they maybe have 2 or 3 suppliers in shortlist that they are actually considering, right? And the thing is that if you go to capture already existing demand, chances are it will be quite challenging, right? We have had, let's say, customers, and we have had cases when you see on website quite a lot of traffic, and unusually large portion of traffic is going just to check pricing and is going away. And even if our customer was providing industry lowest pricing, buyers were not buying, right? And my own hypothesis was that that was because they didn't invest enough in building awareness in the interest stage, but they were trying more just to capture existing demand. Because see, what happens psychologically when people are interested and when they are in awareness stage, they are more open-minded to take new information, to learn new things, and so on. And that's a stage in buyer's journey when you can influence them the most. So don't miss that opportunity. Actually, capturing demand is possible, but in long term, that is quite expensive and not too efficient tactics, actually. All right, let's move on. Let's discuss a bit what does it mean to really know your audience, like including, technical buyers. So, and I would say that if you know your audience, you need to know, I think, 4 things. First of all, you need to know organizations, your buyers' organizations. Typically, these are businesses. You need to know quite precisely what kind of companies they are, how big, other characteristics. We will discuss about that later. And then you need to know buyers. Like who are the personas who are in that room making decisions, who are most important, right? Then you need to know communities, and that's particularly important if we talk about technical buyers, because people with specific interests, they tend to stick together. So there are meetups, there are organizations, online, offline communities, and so on. And very often these communities are a great way to, let's say, go with a presentation or introduce your product or explain your technologies, and you will already have very qualified and interested audience. And finally, the 4th, and maybe sometimes even the most important, is to know influencers, the experts, the analysts who are the bloggers, the video bloggers, right? Who are sharing with others their own opinions, their own expertise, and so on. And sometimes it can work really, really, really good because you see, for influencers, for them to keep their kind of position, they need to provide value to their audience, right? And if they are, let's say, influencer in a certain industry, then they are very open to hear about new technologies, new innovations, new companies, because that is information which they can in turn publish or communicate to their own audience, and in that way they're strengthening their own position.
And you might wonder, but how I can get all this information? And there are different ways you can run, of course, different surveys and whatever else. Our kind of insight is that the best thing what works and can provide you all this information what Roland just explained about your audience is by running an interview, by asking directly to your existing customers or maybe potential customers all these questions and trying to understand them from all these perspectives. How do they make decisions? What communities they are participating in? What influencers they listening or watching to, and so on and so forth. This is the easiest and the best way, at least from our experience, what has worked really nicely. And then, of course, it's about defining your prospective customers. And I think you all are familiar with the model of ideal customer profile. And that is what we still believe needs a lot of improvement when we talk to our customers, to clients who are working with other B2B kind of companies. We often see that companies don't have a clear picture on who are their customers. They say, okay, yeah, we would like to have almost everyone. But in reality, you are not able to get everyone. And most importantly, that it's very expensive and very inefficient to go after everyone. And there are 2 sides of this, or benefits coming from, from the ideal customer profile in 2 directions. One is that you can be more efficient in addressing those people, because by knowing them, you really can focus your kind of outreach activities by channels, by groups and interests, and so on and so forth. So meaning spending less time and less money in getting into the radar of this audience. But it's also when you actually engage them and they start to come in and you start to receive your leads, this ideal customer profile criteria can help you reduce the work what you are putting on your sales team, because then you can easily disqualify those who are not matching those criteria before they're actually getting into your pipeline or before they're getting into the hands of your sales team, when they start to spend time on calling or talking to them, or even more doing demos where this person never gonna be a good buyer for you. But when you think of your ideal customer profile, you definitely need to combine several things, and one of them is that demographical data. So you need to really think of such things like geographies, if you are kind of targeting more than one country, or even, within one country, if it's large enough, you can think of different regions, and so on and so forth. So geography typically is the first starting point. Then the next one is the industry, whether you are actually gonna be focusing on specific industries, or you are going to go cross industries. Very often we also hear that tech companies say that they focus on specific industry, but same time, if you apply this to the specific geography, then you realize that in these specific markets there are just few companies who actually are working in this industry. That means that either you need to remove the geography filter, meaning that you need to expand to more than one country, or you then need to rethink your specialization approach here. And then the next one is about the specific business processes or technologies you are addressing, and many other layers. This, what you can see on the screen, is just a simplified example of this. But what we really recommend you to think of, what are those different filters, what you want to your potential customer to meet as a criteria. It doesn't mean that you will not engage anyone who is not meeting maybe some of these criteria, but still it will help you to stay focused. And you can define those criteria in different tiers. For instance, it's not necessarily that you have only one and the only one.
All right, now let's focus down to specific buyers. And here's a great tool, actually great marketing technique, and that's called the buyer's persona. So basically what you do a research. Ideally you do interviews with these people. You also probably want to hear what your sales team has to say, support team, and so on, and you try to build a profile of this person. And here, for example, is buyer's persona as a chief energy engineer, right? And we try to describe who this guy is, what most likely is his title, right? Because the same person can have different titles. What is demography? What are interests? What's the place in organizational hierarchy, right? And then you describe what are the goals and priorities of this person, what jobs they want to get done in context of your product, what are the risks that they care about and they want to avoid, how they make decisions, what are their challenges. Now, a very important thing is also to describe what is the typical objections towards your product. And then also channels. How do you think you can reach them? So in this case, these are trade channels, internet, obviously, also direct outreach, right? And compiling such profiles are very helpful because it makes it very easy to understand whom you want to communicate with in terms of your marketing materials. And then if you are hiring, let's say, a writer or video producer, it's very easy to communicate. I need materials for specifically this kind of persona, right? And for creative people, it also becomes very easy to understand, okay, what type of person that is, what are the challenges to talk about, and so on. So I highly recommend to use this technique. Now, if we again return to the topic of deeply technical buyers, as discussed earlier, very often they rely on technical publications and also industry experts. So if we look at where they are discovering experts or discovering new ideas, actually a very important source of information for them is technical publications, right? Industry journals, industry blogs perhaps, and so on. So what does it mean for you as a seller or as a marketer is that you need to see if you can get publications in those industries, right? Which would be perhaps more difficult, but more prestigious and more credible way. Or perhaps you need to think of placing some kind of advertising in these publications. In second place comes, interestingly, LinkedIn, closely followed by YouTube, and then by industry conference and seminar. That is followed by referral, right? And then the rest. So basically less important media. Now, if we move ahead and if we look at how we can identify technical communities, because again, as Andrejs explained, there's a level of knowing the organization or ideal customer profile. I talked a bit about the profile of the buyer. And then the third thing is actually communities, right? And try to do research. Like I would very much recommend you to check one of our Fry Talks episode with Aldis Eglis, right? Because he was talking about how they are going to international markets, and they are indeed successful with that. And he was explaining how they are using different technical meetups to go present their competence, present their products, and so on. And he said what was quite important is that in Germany, large companies actually quite often they deliberately send out their technical buyers, their technical experts to different kind of events, meetups, and so on to research new technology, learn about new solutions, and so on. So meetups is certainly something to just go to meetup.com and research, see what are the biggest communities in markets where you want to go to. Second thing, obviously, is universities. Then industry associations, NGOs, like these often are quite important players. They have some kind of regular gatherings. Maybe they have gatherings about different topics where you can come and present. Then industry analysts. Obviously, influencers and industry analysts are important to get your message out. Research centers. Then like practically, you can also try to see who are the followers of the most important players in your industry, of companies, of some YouTube channels, some influencers, right? That also helps you to identify where the people are gathering, what they are watching, or whom they are following, and then you obviously can target also your marketing in these channels. LinkedIn groups. Then also sometimes industries. Again, not in all industries, but sometimes it happens that people are clustered around some Reddit sub-forums. So check out Reddit, check out also Quora, but all in all, you want to understand, you want to identify these places where these technical buyer communities are hanging out, and then either you can contribute your content to a respective community, or perhaps you can just do a simple thing and pay for your marketing or advertising being placed in front of those people. Now, next one, let's take a look at what engineers and technical buyers prefer in terms of social networks. Now, sometimes people say that these people are so technical, they are not using social networks or they are not on Facebook or something, right? But let's take a look at what data says. And interestingly enough, the most important channel for technical buyers, for engineers, is YouTube. And I would say, to me, that seems obvious, because at least myself, whenever I have some technical problem, I go to YouTube, I type in, okay, how to solve it, how to change a tire on my bicycle, or how to straighten rear derailleur, and so on. Second place comes LinkedIn, followed by GitHub, Quora. Interestingly enough, also Facebook is on the list, right? Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and so on. Now, this is average statistics, right? So basically what it tells you that you certainly should check YouTube and check LinkedIn, but most likely you will need to invest a bit of research and figure out where specifically your buyers are hanging out, because you really don't know where the community can be, right? So it needs to be research. YouTube is good guess. LinkedIn, I don't know. GitHub for some communities, probably. Quora, don't know. Reddit for sure, right? So do your research and you will figure that out. Andrejs?
Yeah, I also wanted to mention about the LinkedIn. LinkedIn always, is on the radar of B2B marketeers or salespeople, and we all think that people on other end, like our potential customers, use the LinkedIn the same way as we do. And our experience from running over 200 projects, we realized that it's not true. And very often the audience is actually not on the LinkedIn. Though you can find it, you can filter it out by criteria and then run campaign. But in reality, they are very rarely actually turning to the LinkedIn, and you need to find other channels where to engage with them. You cannot rely only just on one channel. There are, of course, some more active group and less active, but experience shows more kind of specific audiences, less likely that they will be very active on the LinkedIn. And you have to really test it out and see what works, and then adjust your your outreach strategy accordingly.
So how real to identify your communities and influencers? So first of all, try to Google, try to search. Chances are you will find existing community content. The second thing, which perhaps is most important, and I know myself and Andrejs, we love to do it, we find it extremely useful, is to do interview with your potential buyers. Like when you are doing interview to compile profile of buyer's persona, ask them where their community is hanging out, where they're finding their information, who are the main influencers, and chances are they just will tell you and will save you quite a lot of work. Then another thing, which is more technical, is actually to do competition analysis and try to check specific backlinks. And backlinks means link from which visitors are coming, right? And quite often it allows to identify some kind of influencing blogs, media, and so on, which are sending traffic. So if you see that, let's say to your competitor, there's quite a lot of traffic coming from certain blog, it means you need to look into this blog, and chances are you will be able to publish some content on that blog and also get part of audience. And then there are obviously some paid tools like SparkToro is one of them. But if you ask me, I would start by doing two things. One is search, and the other is actually talking to people and doing buyers interviews.
Here you can see a summary of some recommendations from our side. So first of all, there are the easiest and fastest way is about contributing the content to existing community. So you can go and start commenting if you see that there are some groups of people who are discussing something about the topic which are related to your area or your solution, and you don't have a capacity of creating your own content. Just go there and be part of the conversation. Maybe just contribute with some of the comments, and you will see that that will accelerate engagement with yourself, with your company, and will bring some interest. Of course, the next one would be about really creating your own posts on the regular basis. More importantly, that you really do it on the regular basis, like once a day or maybe twice a week or any other things. But this is very important. Of course, blogs, many people think of, now we will put a blog on our website and then, sales will go up. In reality, it doesn't help that way, right? What it helps with is it's about creating a long-term lasting effect, because blog typically is something what is, if it's created rightly, brings you organic traffic, right? So cold. So when people search for some kind of topic related questions, they will come to your website, and that is what blog is meant for. And then if you structure it well and you position your expertise, that is what can create a connection between your visitor and your company. And then the same with videos. And videos nowadays are really, a great tool to engage your audience, because people like videos in different formats, short and long format videos, and so on and so forth. And of course, being part of some present events, either your own events or maybe third-party events, is always a good idea to position your expertise. On the other side, of course, when you have a content, you also need to kind of make sure that somebody sees this content, right? And for that reason, you need to structure your work that you grow your audience on main channels where you want to be. And we already discussed LinkedIn, YouTube. Maybe also a good idea to have some newsletter, because that's actually it doesn't cost you anything to have a newsletter. But of course, it needs to bring some value, as we already discussed in the beginning of the webinar, because for the tech audience, that's the main criteria, whether it brings the value to them or not, whether it helps them to become more knowledgeable, more kind of ready for some decisions or not. And of course, as already mentioned by Rolands, it's a very good idea to leverage influencers to accelerate and multiply your reach, right? And for that reason, you have to know those people whom you can engage with. And as an example, for instance, if you are selling a solution for a Microsoft Teams, as an example, right? Surprisingly, but if you go to the YouTube, you will find that there are tens of experts talking about Microsoft Teams to the different audiences, starting from the end users, just about how to, up to the technical audience explaining like really deep technical questions. And depends on what audience you target, you can engage with those influencers who have hundreds, if not thousands, or even tens of thousands of viewers on daily or monthly basis, and offer them a conversation with your expert, or offer them maybe a test of your product or a solution, or just piece of valuable content, and so on and so forth. And that is how you can get a visibility and how you can get in front of your audience and introduce your product. Of course, podcasts nowadays, and that is what Roland shared in previous slides also, was mentioned that technical audience is listening to the podcast. This is not the first choice for them, but still, and it's growing. And we know that there are really a great podcast what people are listening and going after. And one of the options is that to offer your expert with some really insightful topic to those podcasts. And again, it should not be a sales pitch, but it's really something where you share real life examples, real life insights, and that is what definitely will work out. And yeah, I think what else to mention here? Probably offering some exclusive content. If you have created something like, for instance, a study, when you researched maybe hundreds of your clients and you have some findings, definitely others, both like influencers, but also your audience will be very happy actually to get these insights, because we know that the most desirable piece of content what people are looking after is those real life insights, real life examples, what they can apply to their situations.
All right, now let's quickly take a look at some tips and tricks of building audience. Very quickly. Like LinkedIn, what's important to understand is that people trust people more than they trust brands. So as a result, posting on your company page makes sense, particularly if you promote it. Basically use your posts as a paid advertising to show them to your target audience. But generally, you will have more organic reach, more comments if your team is posting. So it's a good idea to prepare posts for your team to use with their own comments and so on. Second thing, do have a complete profile and post regularly. If you're posting regularly, LinkedIn algorithm starts to favor you, right? And third tactics is actually identify your audience and do automation. Automate invitations, automate inviting people to events and so on. This is a bit tricky thing. We are not getting into that today because LinkedIn can ban you. It's actually not allowed by LinkedIn terms of use, right? But that's the way how to grow audience quickly. That's a way how to invite followers of your competitors and influencers and so on. Second thing, YouTube. Many people do underestimate or do not know about search engine optimization of YouTube. YouTube is actually the second largest search engine after Google, right? So using search engine optimization on YouTube is important. It helps with discoverability so that your audience actually sees your content. Second thing, whenever you're making YouTube videos, explicitly invite audience to subscribe. You wouldn't believe how big a difference is if you are inviting people to subscribe versus if you don't. So using opportunity, I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I will post the link in comments just in a minute. And second thing, make use of YouTube Shorts. You probably know TikTok. It's crazy popular 60 seconds videos, right? And the same is available on YouTube. And actually, YouTube algorithm gives preference to those short videos. Actually, we have done some experiments ourselves. And what I can say for certainty is that these 60-second short videos help you increase subscriber count quite significantly and quite quickly. All right, but now let's go to next part of our webinar, which is how to use marketing content to influence and to help technical buyers make decision.
And again, we are coming to this concept of the buyer journey, and those two type of audience. One is that already have a clear picture on what they need, and then they're almost ready to buy, and those who actually still need some help, right? And those two groups, which are in the awareness phase or the interest phase, they are most open to the information, and that is actually where we need to focus on in terms of the content creation mainly, right? And if you look at those different type of contents, what can be really used for engaging with these potential buyers is that when it comes to the awareness, according to the survey, what you can see on the screen, the audience said that webinars is one of the main primarily channel for them, and that is something to definitely consider and leverage. But the only thing is that sometimes we hear that companies run the webinar, and when you come to this webinar, what they do, they actually do the sales pitch of their product. And that is the different type of the webinar we are talking about. Your webinar should be more educational focused, and where you really maybe help people to understand where is the opportunity for them, or whether there is a risk or a problem. So keep it in mind. Secondly, it's about the all type of different research reports. So as I already mentioned, if you have done some report, or maybe you have somebody's other report that you can refer to, that's also a very good piece of the content what you can share, because these people might get interested based on this data in exploring more. Blog posts, news articles, ebooks, white papers, infographics, everything what can really help them understand this problem or opportunity for their business. Then in terms of the interest phase, mainly those people are looking for how others are actually solving this issue, because they already understood that there is an opportunity or there is a problem. Let me explore what actually I can do about this. And first of all, and this is very often what pops up in our interviews with clients of our clients, is that the first channel they gather information is from peers. So they're actually turning to their peers, to their communities, and asking, hey, how you are doing about this, right? And that is why you need to think of some case studies, maybe some examples. Maybe those are anonymous case studies, not necessarily you need to share, because in some cases, like if you are providing a security solution or something like that, it's very hard really to convince your clients to openly share their company details and stuff like that. But if you just provide some examples, anonymous even examples of how this can be solved, what was the process, what were learnings, what are the outcomes, that's what actually can attract those people who are currently in the interest phase. The same with analytic reports, the same with the webinars, but webinars again should be focused on sharing those best practices, sharing the knowledge, and so on. And you can see on the screen again repeating the white paper and ebook, but again those white papers and ebooks is just a form of the content, but the content itself should be more tailored to those particular interests of the group, which is about learning, right? Learning how others mainly are solving these challenges. And when it comes to the audience, which is the closest to the business decision making, it's about mainly exploring the product. So here you can really go out with your particular product content, product related content, like really offering some demos, even recordings of those demos. Not necessarily you need to do it in live, because sometimes people just want to see a short video of how the customer portal looks like, what I can do with that or that functionality, how does it work. So that is where you can create a lot of different content, which is easy to consume. It's also something where you can provide.
Let's again focus down on very specifically technical buyers. So what content engineers prefer? So engineers, as I guess you already know, are people who like to talk very straightforward. And in the first place is actually datasheet, right? As simple as that. Second, most valuable content for engineers is actually CAD drawing, basically computer model of the item. And that's particularly important if you are offering OEM solutions which are going, basically hardware which is going to be used together with other hardware, so they need to know dimensions, weight, power requirements, and so on. Third place, demonstration video, then followed by product review testimonial, white paper, and so on. So again, engineers are people more down to earth. They also prefer more direct content.
Yeah, and there is always a challenge, or the question is whether to gate or not to gate the content, because like a traditional way of doing marketing is, hey, here is a piece of the content, here is a form, fill it in, we are getting lead, you are getting the content, right? Of course, nothing wrong with this approach. On the other hand, it's also about really understanding at which stage of the buyer's journey you are sharing this content. More earlier this content, or more earlier that your target audience is in the buyer's journey, less likely they will be actually ready to share their details with you, contact details. So therefore, and your objective at this stage is not to collect their email or phone number, because it doesn't make sense completely. If you will start calling them or start emailing them right after they, I don't know, downloaded some study or report, while they are just about to understand whether there is an opportunity or the problem for them, they will not be, engaging with you anyhow, because they are not ready for that. So therefore, if you are targeting the awareness stage, or even educational stage, in informational stage, then you basically want to really make as many as possible people reading your content or consuming your content. So therefore, it's a good idea to make it available freely. But of course, you have to think of some mechanisms on the background, how you can then afterwards collect this audience for the retargeting purposes, for some other engagement activities, and so on and so forth.
Actually, I want to share my experience with sharing highly technical content and actually make it gated. So generally, you would be well advised not to gate your technical content and just be happy if somebody's consuming it, right? Particularly technical buyers. However, in cases if you are really sharing content which can be sensitive from competitive perspective, sometimes it makes sense actually to ask to sign NDA before you provide this information, right? And in NDA, you really can ask quite a lot of details about the company, so on, and then you can also meet several goals. First of all, you have some certainty that the content you provide will not leak out in internet. Second thing, you can get detailed information about company requesting this information, right? And third, I just lost the third point. Sorry about that. But let's go on. Let's talk a bit about content. If we talk about marketing content, remember the buyer's journey. And we know quite specifically from research that buyer's journey takes months, sometimes for complicated, complex products, maybe even years, right? So it's very important in terms of marketing content to make sure that you stay on top of mind of your buyers. And this means that in terms of marketing content, you have to be ready for this long-term game, right? And what does it mean? It means that you need to build some system, basically a consistent communication approach, and you need to continue educating, enabling your buyers after you have become aware of them. Let's say they signed up for cut drawing or for white paper and so on, right? And good idea here is to use nurturing emails, basically sending them valuable information, let's say twice per month or something. Let's say after the person has registered for white paper, you send them a week after a case study, industry analyst report after that, some kind of how to advise after. Then you invite them to webinar and so on. So basically your goal is to stay in their mind and constantly, not to intrusively remind them about why they came for and why they registered for your content in the first place. Now, here is a schema, and it may look quite complex, but actually it explains how to create how to make content creation really easy, right? And first of all, if you look from left to right, it starts with go-to-market strategy, right? And today we are not delving into that. We have a whole separate webinar about that. It's available, by the way, on our YouTube channel, right? But if you know your buyer's persona, if you know in which stage of buying journey you want to create content for, if you have ideal customer profile, right? You can start creating key messages, basically structure and key arguments around what you want to say. For example, if you are planning to produce a guide, you certainly need to do some research. Then you come up with a structure, what you need to explain, what will be introduction, what will be conclusion, and so on. Then after that, you do research. Basically, you gather facts, figures, quotes, references. You also interview your internal subject matter experts, right? And once you have gathered that sum of information, it actually becomes very easy to create content. Things like ebooks, videos, blogs, infographics, white papers, and so on. So if you know what you want to say, whom you want to say, when you want to say, content creation really becomes rather easy thing to do. Okay, so about content, sorry. And another thing about content is that sometimes companies are thinking that, oh, well, we cannot produce all this content. It's so complicated, so difficult, so much time goes into it. But here I will try to prove the opposite. And actually, indeed, it's very important to create original thought leadership content, right? But it doesn't need to be created every day. So if you have a big content, such as, let's say, white paper, it's rather easy to create, based on that information, to create a webinar. Out of webinar, you can generate webinar recording. Webinar recording, you can cut into pieces, and suddenly you have lots of excerpts, small video content that you can publish on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and so on. Same with presentation. Some slides can become content, right? And if you are following us, you probably have seen that some of these slides actually we have published as a content on LinkedIn already, right? So the idea is that you create really big, really groundbreaking content once, and then you develop derivative content out of that, and then you develop smaller pieces of content, and suddenly you have a full content calendar of content to publish. So let's say if you produce a webinar once, probably you have derivative content for months or even 2 months to publish as small pieces of that information. Andrejs?
Yes, and of course, when you have all this content prepared, you have to build this as a funnel approach, right? So because as we already discussed, there are people who are going through the different stages of the buyer journey, and so you have to structure your campaigns accordingly. And most importantly, in order to really scale, in order to really ensure that this content is available in the multiple touch points, and you organically move your potential buyers forward with this help of the content. Ideally, you need to build an automated process with help of different technologies. There can be marketing automation involved or any other tools, which helps you actually not only deliver this content, but also to have a nurturing process in place, which will, in automated manner, will provide a next logical piece of the content for your potential buyers based on at what stage of the buyer's journey they are, and also will give you an insights and will help with qualification of those leads, so that again, your sales team getting as much qualified leads as needed when those leads actually are ready enough for having this sales conversation. So that is why you need actually to build it as a automated marketing and sales funnel, as we illustrate on the screen at the moment. And then, of course, in order to really land all this approach, what we just discussed, and Roland mentioned that we have a separate webinar for that, and you can find it on our YouTube channel. It's very highly recommended to leverage a go-to-market planning framework, what you can see on the screen. And we will not delve into that in details, but what the purpose of this framework is to give you a good structure to go through the critical steps for the go-to-market planning and have defined your market, your buyers' personas, your buyers' journey, and also the content, and how do you deliver this content for generating certain sales objectives, what you are looking after. Yeah, and as already mentioned, we have a lot of content available on our YouTube channel. Here, quick reminder, so you can always go and subscribe to our content on our YouTube channel, and you will find both short and long-term, long-form content explaining more than just we managed to explain in this particular webinar. And just to wrap up, we would like quickly to remind about a few things related to the accelerating time to market. And first of all, it's about really recognizing what time is needed to generate new business. And this is a dream data graph, which actually shows how much time is needed for not only engaging your audience, but also actually to going through this process, what we just described of the buyer journey. So both with the marketing, with help of the marketing activities, but also on the sales side. And as you can see from actually the sales process or pre-sales process takes even much longer. And larger the organization is, the longer this process can be. And what this research shows that actually it can take even up to 1.5 years for closing the deal. And of course, it very much depends on what exactly you're selling, how big is the average deal size, how complex are these projects. But nevertheless, this is always something to keep in mind, and that means that the demand what you generate today will materialize in your sales books only maybe in 6 months or even 12 months from now, right? And that is really important to keep in mind. And therefore, when it comes to the those activities, what we need to take in order to accelerate that is first of all, rightly focus on the audience, which can bring you both like a short-term gains, but also early enough to build a solid foundation for your upcoming periods with the demand creation and demand generation activities among those who are not ready to buy at the moment, but will be at some point of time.
Yes, and knowing the length of buyer's journey, right? The best advice I think me and Andrejs can give you is, particularly if you are a startup or if you're planning to accelerate your growth, is actually to start early. Because you see, B2B purchase easily takes months. That's just, a proven thing. Then setting up world-class marketing, actually it will take 2-3 months, right? And just we are deeply involved in that, and we are doing it as a service for our customers, and it doesn't get much faster than that, right? And it means that if you are only planning to start your marketing activities or only to think to invest in marketing after you have product launch in market, right? It will be too late, and there will be a cost. What cost we are talking about? First of all, you will lose the first mover's advantage, right? Second thing, you are likely not to capture or maybe lose competitive position, because while you are thinking about what to do with marketing, how to build awareness and trust, your competitors will be ahead of you. And obviously you will also lose revenue, right? So therefore I would say that this is sound, and this is good advice to start thinking and investing in marketing no less than a year before you think your product will be available, right? And basically, it means that you need to start building your audience today. Actually, here's below the slide, there's a link and there's a blog by former McKinsey consultant. And actually, their research found out that just 6 months of delay of a launch of a product can reduce by 1/3 the lifetime revenue you will ever make from this product. So don't miss this opportunity. Really do not delay starting your marketing early on.
Yeah, and especially for the salespeople in this webinar, I would like to remind that marketing, of course, can do magic, right? But same time, do not expect such a kind of magic that if you need to fill in your sales quota, and there is just a couple of weeks left in this quarter, that marketing can really help you with that. No. Both as a sales leader or as a marketing leader or even as a company leader, you have to plan your marketing properly, and not only plan but execute it on the always on approach, right? Because that will give you an advantage versus your competitors, because you will be able not only capture the existing demand, as we already discussed, but you will be always bringing the new demand from the market. And that is actually the main growth space for almost any technical company. And based on that, from our side, we would like to wrap up, and thank you for staying with us so long in this webinar. Hopefully it was somehow valuable. We appreciate your insight and feedback. But from our side, we would like to, give you an opportunity to have a more deep conversation on individual basis. So we usually have two type of activities where we, just with no any commitments to buy anything whatsoever, to have an hour of call with me or Roland. And first of all, we can take a look and provide you a kind of an audit on what you actually, where you are currently with your go-to-market approach, and what can be changed or improved based on what we discussed today and some of our other experience. But if you are just about to start and you are looking for, advice on how to enter a new market or how to maybe launch a new product, for that reason, we have also a free go-to-market planning workshop. During this workshop, we actually discuss those steps, what needs to be taken, and also see where you are with the planning of those steps and give you some guidance on how to do that. And then if you're interested, you can leverage the information what we already have and do it yourself, or if needed, we can help you, of course, at the next step. So if you are interested with that, you can always just, apply as easy as visiting our webpage and booking us for this workshop. And we will be happy to jump into the call and have a conversation with you. As I said, there is no commitment expected from your side. We just have a conversation and see how it works for you. So otherwise, thank you very much. And we are looking forward to hear from you very soon, hopefully meeting in one of these calls. Otherwise, wish you a great success with your products, with your marketing and your sales activities. And stay tuned. We will be very soon announcing our next webinar, and it will be also quite an interesting, I hope so.